right, let's go live. There it is. We are live. Welcome to Weather Center Live, everybody. I hope this is working. I had the live stream booted up a second ago, and for some reason, YouTube said live streaming is unavailable right now. I'm not too sure why, but let's go ahead and get things started. In fact, why is my live stream looking all kinds of weird and funky right now? It doesn't show anybody's in here, but there are definitely people in here. What is going on? I really hope this isn't an issue. Can anybody hear me out there? Is anybody there? Ethan's Life, good morning. Matthew F150, welcome in. Raining like crazy down in Marathon, some lightning. Yeah, there's a really nice squall feature rolling through with severe warnings popping off for South Florida. So we've been right on the money in terms of what's been happening across the state. We're going to look at some of the parameters as this continues to sweep across, and we'll see exactly what goes down. I do believe that we really aren't going to have too much happen across much of the peninsula. It looks like a lot of the stuff has been dwindling as it's moved onshore. In fact, a lot of the cells that were previously rotating off of Tampa Bay, the west coast of Florida, further to the north of Naples and thereafter, have really washed out. It looks like we have a very weak little center of circulation starting to form up just to the south of Apalachicola Bay, kind of, sort of, at least an initial first glance at a center of a low that's trying to go and deepen down. Somebody dorked up the name or the terminology for that. They said cyclogenist, and it's cyclogenesis, or the genesis, the development of a low pressure at the surface or in the upper levels. I just recently discovered this as well. We're actually using the radar off of weathermodels.com. Very cool. It's very high res. This is a composite radar off of the MRMS that we have for the state. And it's pretty neat. I like the way that you can see it all. Looks like Key West got hit by a severe thunderstorm warning. We have a severe thunderstorm warning just down to the southeast of Naples. This area, as you can see, as it's moved onshore, has held together. So for those of you who are on my TikTok, who I've been talking to and reporting on for the last couple of days, I had mentioned, and even this morning for the update that popped out, I'd mentioned as these systems progress in towards Tampa, towards Sarasota, Clearwater, St. Petersburg, and head towards Central Florida, the Four Corners area, they're going to diminish pretty quickly, and it looks like that was right on the money. They really aren't holding much of their structural or vertical integrity. Let me pull up my Epic pen so we can start drawing for you guys. How's everybody doing, though? I don't know how many people we have in the chat. For some reason, my live stream still says it's scheduled. It has not updated its information, so I don't know who's in here right now. Matthew F150, Ethan's Life, cold, pray for Florida. It isn't too bad out there. We're doing okay. This is definitely not a scattered severe weather event like we've seen previously. Jesus Seda, Devil Charger, welcome in. Good to see you. I'm glad you made it. Judy Tokos, I'm glad you guys can hear me. Stacy Taylor, everyone please stay safe. We appreciate the kind words. We're going to switch on over to California here after we get through the Florida portion of this, I guess you could say, live briefing. I was watching this thing over Windy's wind map, and here it is. Yep, it's definitely here. It's moving across fairly quickly as well. This thing could be over in about 4 to 6 hours. We'll have to wait and see. Severe thunderstorm warning for Miami-Dade just issued. Let me refresh this, because that's one thing. This thing does not auto-update. So let's see if we can get another radar. Yeah, there. Oh, nope, it has not updated. Let me go to my radar Omega real quick and see what we have down there. That's not the app that I wanted. I really should get Radar Omega 4. Oh, yeah, there we go. We've got some big stuff happening over South Florida right now. We've got a Swiss special weather statement. We have a special marine warning specifically for the southern half of Lake Okeechobee. We have 2 severe thunderstorm warnings currently ongoing and a special weather statement right underneath it as well, headed right towards you, Matt F150 in Miami-Dade. We also have a special marine warning across the Florida Keys. So, yeah. We are golden. We are sitting pretty. South Florida, definitely. We verified this forecast. So has Storm Prediction Center. A lot of us who out here who were not over anticipating the severe coverage for this event are hitting it right on the money. Give me 1 second. So that's good news. Unfortunately for our folks in South Florida, there's literally just a mess of all sorts of different watches, warnings, and advisories going on across here. We have 3 advisories and warnings down here. We have 2 up and through here, and then we have a blanket issue situation for Key West and the rest of the Florida Keys. So we'll definitely have to pull up Radar Omega. And in fact, while we're letting people join in and this stream kind of gets its act together, let me see if I can pull that up. Let's go to Radar Omega. Oh my goodness, my thing's in the way. Radar Omega. How's everyone been doing, though? Honestly, how's everyone doing in the chat right now? Blast out a good morning if you are in the chat. Let's see, more than just Radar Windows. Yeah, this is Windows. Let me see if I can download it really quick while we're talking. Good morning, everybody. And I do apologize. Yesterday, I was supposed to go live. I'd mentioned to you folks who joined me on Thursday, the night of my birthday, that I was going to go live yesterday morning. But unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. We just kind of, we got pulled into all sorts of different things that we were going to do during the day and ended up having to split from the house very early yesterday. There you are, Maya. I just reached out to you, as a matter of fact, to let you know that, whatchamacallit, we were going live on here. Oh, shucks. Why do I have to do this? All right, let's try this out. That's definitely not how you spell .com. There we go. I think I still dorked it up there. Come on, man. There we go. Password. I don't think I have a password for it yet. I knew it. I did I actually? All right, you know what? We're just going to skip this for now. I'll troubleshoot it once we get finished with this. But yeah, essentially for those of you who are just joining us, smack dab, we're 100% on board with what's going on right now. Everybody to the south of where this line is, right about where the Fort Myers area to the south, we have a ton of different issues and situations unfolding as we speak. Multiple special weather statements, severe thunderstorm warnings ongoing, particularly for a damaging wind event. That's for certain. We also have, believe it or not, a special marine warning just issued for the southern half of Lake Okeechobee, which is pretty cool. It goes to show how expansive of a body of water that is. Special weather warnings, marine weather warnings for all of the Keys. You can see that bow echo feature on radar down to the south here. That looks very impressive. That is very easily producing very, very strong winds, undoubtedly. Undoubtedly. When you look at radar long enough, you can more or less just kind of tell where a lot of the bulk of the activity is going on. And I'm very grateful that we had a whole area of rotating storms off the coast here. I was concerned for a moment. I was sitting there thinking to myself, shucks, David, the last couple days you've been telling everybody that nothing was really going to go on for central and northern Florida, and you have all those rotating cells off the coast. This is where we used to say in Air Force weather, we got to clinch up and hope for the best. And, as they've moved in, you could very quickly see once they moved across Tampa, St. Pete, Sarasota, they've very quickly lost a lot of their vertical extent. It's only over the south where you can clearly see them actually moving inland and holding steady. And it makes sense, too, because if you look at us where we are in reference to the low, if we go back to just kind of going over the basic physics of this system, a lot of our less aggressive movement is going to be up in this area because you don't have that whiplash effect. If you look at it down to the south here, this corner of our squall line is kind of having that Indiana Jones effect. Whoosh! And that's where you get all that extra turbulent mixing going on, and you get those bow echo, line echo wave patterns that will create the straight line convective winds as they rain through. So good stuff. I also noticed how close are we mentioned this to me as well on Tropical Tidbits. They've actually added a surface cape parameter on here, which is great. For the longest time, Tropical Tidbits only had mixing layer cape, which is good. I mean, mixing layer cape for certain is something you want to look at, but in this case, they added surface-based cape, and looking at the 3-kilometer NAM for 12 Zulu as it comes out is not giving a whole vote of confidence to the state of Florida. And I know the cape surges at this point in the model run, but don't be confused or don't be mistaken. This is after everything has already come through. So what we'll need to do is watch exactly what happens afterward, because a lot of our models, especially the HRRR, if I switch over to here, is showing quite a bit of a resurgence in possible isolated thunderstorm activity in the back end of the day. See right here we have some little discrete cells that try to pop up and push inland on the backside of this low as it kind of goes stationary over the southeast. And this is precisely what we had been worried about for a while. This is why I'm not too sure. A number of other sources were forecasting this was going to sweep through and it was going to blast everybody, tornado outbreak, etc. That's not the case here. This is a cutoff system, and the HRRR is especially doing a great job of showing that it's really not going to go anywhere for a long time. Look at how it just kind of marinates over the Gulf. This is now Tuesday. This is Monday night, and it's still here. Monday night into Tuesday, it's still here. And then off the coast, look at how it just continues to marinate over those warmer waters, which could, very small chance, Very, 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 very small chance. Please take this with a grain of salt. This is only my opinion. This has not been explored. This has not been mentioned by any other sources. This is something that I just kind of conjured up right now on the spot. If it hangs out there for long enough, we could see it take on some subtropical characteristics. Just an FYI. Because look at how it continues to deepen and kind of manifest itself and become much more consolidated and organized with a little bit of potential onshore flow still impacting us as we get into Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning. Remember, guys, it's only Sunday morning, 10:40 a.m. This thing is only going to be maybe 100, 200 miles off of our coastline as we wake up at this time on Tuesday. That's 2 days, 48 hours, plus the 12 hours it's been impacting us since yesterday evening. This is a very slow-moving system. And as it hangs out over those warmer Gulf Stream waters and just off our coastline over the extreme westernmost Atlantic, it could potentially try to take on some subtropical characteristics. Look at the wind field that kind of blows up around it as it deepens down out there. It starts out as a very, very conglomerative mess of just overall broad low pressure, and then it really starts to ramp up once you get off the coastline. Look at that, 989 as we get into a little bit more of the model data. So that's something we really want to watch for as well. This very well could possibly be, I don't know if they're in here today, Mick and Marley, this could be Tropical Storm Vince. No, I'm just playing. No. Sorry, for those of you who are not familiar, that's an ongoing insider with this channel. I'm just playing, though. That's definitely not what's going to happen. Let's go back to weathermodels.com. As you can see, the Euro model is thinking it's going to be up and out of here very quickly. It's thinking it'll be all said and done by the time we get into Tuesday, and then finally pressing away from us Wednesday morning, moving towards Bermuda and giving them a whole lot of active weather with this system. Almost pseudo-tropical impacts with them as it continues to work its way further and further off of our east coast. So, yeah. And then all in all, you know, as we get into the second half of the title of this live stream, where is winter? Winter has kind of just disappeared. I understand that we're under a blocking pattern still, and a lot of it is just destroying California and the Intermountain West right now, but I was thinking that we would start to see some sort of a semblance of a big weather player forming up. Now, I know right here, this is something we definitely have to watch. This could definitely be an explosive weather event just in time for Valentine's Day, just as we've been talking about. But the kicker with this is the only model, the Euro, surprisingly, who are calling for it. This is the only one. The GFS has backed off on it. The Canadian model doesn't really have anything big going on. We can take a look at that here in a moment, especially as we start to get some GFS and 12Z model data in, which is perfect. Let's switch over to the CONUS view. We'll go to precip, mean sea level pressure. And there you go. You can see this system kicking out across the southeast into the western Atlantic, and then we have our next big old baroclinic system that's moving into California, Nevada, that's going to dump them with several inches of snow, multiple inches of rainfall. I've seen some sources mentioning 85 some odd mile an hour winds. I don't know if it's going to be that bad, but we're definitely going to see very, very, very good coastal impacts in the form of probably 65 to 75 mile an hour winds buffeting the west coast of California. And then we have this bad boy here. It's like we have two different situations unfolding over CONUS. If I back it up just a little bit right here, you can see that very, very, very strong system off of the west coast that's moving inland and helping to provide them with winter/almost spring-like conditions. There's actually been some tornadoes and funnel clouds reported with this system. And then we have this bubble of cold air, cooler air relatively, that's just moving across us, scraping through the south. That brought some tornadoes and high wind reports for Texas. Nothing of major concern through the rest of the Gulf Coast states, thankfully, and now it's moving through our neck of the woods here in Florida. And it's going to be done and over with before we know it in terms of this initial first wave. This first wave is moving through very quickly. Let me see if I can try to reboot this radar. Let me go back into the beginning, go to Model Lab, and let's pull up our radar for Florida, see if it's updated at all. There we go. Yep, now it's updated. You can see all the different severe thunderstorm warnings that just keep popping up in rapid succession down there over extreme southernmost Florida. It was raining out here earlier, but it actually looks like 100%. This is very quickly weakening down, very quickly. So, Maya, if you're still in the chat, like you said this morning, SPC was definitely very, very, very in tune with what this scenario was going to unfold as. Very much so. In fact, I think they got a little... No, actually, they did a good job. Coming to think of it, they have the special weather statements and the advisories that popped up here. So I think where they highlighted that yellow box, like so, as of this morning, was a very good call. Very good call. And that's the end of that. We're going to have to watch the progression of this system as it continues to move off the coastline. I'll go back to our Canadian model as well as this continues to come in. So if you look at the 0Z run, as I've mentioned previously, the Euro is the only one thinking that we could have some very, very good development over interior Conus. This is definitely going to be a winter storm player as it moves out of the Rockies and emerges as a low-pressure center, still a jet-supported baroclinic system over the upper Midwest, the northern plains, etc. Who's spam? Oh. Yeah, we don't have a moderator in here right now, unfortunately. We're going to get some spam. I'm already seeing the sun starting to come out. Yeah, because we just have so much dry air back behind this system. Let me switch over to one of my favorite websites for satellite data. We'll go to College of DuPage. And look at that. That's exactly why this is already perfect. I know we're not even zoomed in, but let me go down to our sub-regional section, and we'll go over Florida specifically. That's why you're already seeing the sun starting to come out. Look at all that dry air right along the leading edge of this system. Let me change it and not draw yellow over yellow. Dry air is very rapidly coming in. You know, it's very interesting that we actually have severe thunderstorms out there, because if I switch over to our clean infrared, this infrared satellite doesn't look like much of anything. It doesn't look very impressive at all. We have very cool cloud tops close to ground level, so this is very, very low convection that's occurring. Good thing, that's for certain. It's definitely a good thing. We don't have any of the explosive storms that we were anticipating previously, and if I turn on the satellite loop, you can see these cloud tops just don't look very impressive. In fact, you'd think this is just no more than ordinary rainfall as it comes across the state of Florida. If we switch over to our visible satellite, you'll see that center of circulation right there, slowly getting going. Still a really good shear component coming out of the east-south or the west-southwest. That's what's providing us with that shear, creating that threat for convective winds, that very low-end threat for some tornadic activity. If these storms were to actually blossom, they really aren't, unfortunately. It looks like our strongest convection is somewhere, yeah, you can see them very, very faintly. You can see some of those overshooting tops, the exhaust mechanisms of those updrafts and the storms very, very subtly down here. It's very, blink and you'll miss it. You can't really see it, but then there's our low-level component, very textbook for this time of year. Very textbook. We've seen this with every single system that's moved through from November all the way up until now, February. So, yeah, we got it. We're verifying this forecast 100% of the way through, thankfully. It doesn't seem like we're going to have a risk for anything. If you live from here up, I don't think we're going to see very much outside of a quick bout of rainfall. And in fact, the rain is very underwhelming with this as well. I think it's already over for my area as well. I heard it kind of pick up a little bit, and that's it. Really not a whole lot, which is a bit unfortunate. It does seem like our drought conditions are supposed to trend down, if not entirely away, for Florida outside of the extreme westernmost extent, this geographic area here where Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg, and whatnot is. Yeah, West Palm, you're definitely going to get it. Down south. So again, I'll go ahead and draw a nice little finite line for you guys. If you live here down this portion of Florida and into the Keys and even the Bahamas thereafter, once this can move offshore, you guys are in for a rough start of the day. The first half of the day is going to be very sporty, as we like to say. Up here, though, I was even looking at the SKU-T soundings, and they're just not very impressive. They really aren't. So I don't know where people were getting that this was going to be a very intense tornado outbreak event. There were even some reputable meteorologists who kept on mentioning that we could see a tornado outbreak down here, and I even messaged a few people thinking, did we miss something? Did we miss where all this tornado area stuff, tornado-prone stuff is? Because I'm not seeing it. If we switch over to our upper air soundings, that tells the picture entirely. This is our observed SKU-T out of Melbourne, and you can tell Melbourne's not going to see jack of anything besides cold rain. This is an extremely stable atmospheric profile. And in fact, without even looking at the science, without even looking at the data, one key feature I noticed that told me immediately that we're not going to see very much with this. I stepped outside this morning to take a really quick live shot video for my TikTok update I posted maybe 2 hours ago. And I stood out there, and not only was it still cool out, but there was no wind. There was no wind. And what that tells me not necessarily is that, nothing's happening, but from a meteorological standpoint, if I don't feel wind despite this huge system right overhead and all these winds, as I've mentioned to you guys previously on this channel for my returning viewers, that's not what I wanted. For my returning viewers, if I were to switch over to, let's go ahead and, I don't like when we switch over to that. Let's go down to the southeast on Tropical Tidbits, and let's switch over to, we'll use the GFS as it comes in. We'll go to lower dynamics, 850 millibar winds. That's too far out. There's our 850 millibar flow. So again, 850 millibar flow is not that impressive, but the fact that we have 30 to 50 knot winds over top of Florida and we're not feeling but maybe just a very, very light breeze or like someone's kind of blowing on you, that tells me that the atmosphere is inverted. We're too cold down at the surface. We're capped. That lid of the pot is over top of us and not allowing any of that steam to go up. So we're stable. This is far more than a conditionally stable environment. This is almost getting close to a absolutely stable environment, especially looking at this. I mean, it's not really following any lapse rate. In fact, it's almost following the saturation mixing lines. We're not following the moist adiabats or the dry adiabats in this case. I mean, it kind of goes moist adiabatic after you get up above 600 millibars, but even then, look at all this subsidence here, little radiation inversion down at the surface. There's a huge cap over Florida right now. So I bet you if we were to switch over to the South Florida, though, we'd have a totally different story. Let's go ahead and take a look. Let's verify what it is we're talking about right now. Let me go to upper air soundings and go down to Key West and look at the SKU-T. There we go. So, I mean, we're still subsidized in the mid to upper levels. You can still see a bit of a subsidence inversion here, weak subsidence inversion there, weak subsidence inversion there, which is probably why if we go back to our infrared, we really aren't seeing much taking place. We don't have very high tops of these storms because the very, very tiniest point where you actually do go almost completely unstable is right there. Very, very low level. You have a very steep lapse rate that eventually gets cut off by weak subsidence down there in the low levels. We don't have a lot of moisture to tap into. That moist air advection is not doing a whole lot for us. And you can see our SIN down there, or the cap, that convective inhibition is still there with very weak CAPE. None of these convective parameters on this QT really show very much at all. So these are probably mechanically driven thunderstorms over the south right now, primarily brought on by our upper low and the vorticity entrenched around it. So yeah, that's the end of that. We're really not going to get too much out of this until it could finally form up. And you know what? We're going to do it. I'm thinking about it, and I mentioned it at the beginning of the video. Let's see if our Euro ensembles are highlighting any type of weird development out of this thing once it moves over the water. Let's see. Let's go down to tropical depression, EPS cyclones, and let's go here, United States, 0Z. Nope, nothing. Nothing at all. So subtropical status, possibly, but then again, it also depends on how cold or warm the water is out there. Let's take a look real quick. Yeah, no, never mind. The anomalies are still fairly good. It's still fairly warm off the Gulf Stream water, but not enough to really give it any major subtropical characteristics. So never mind. We've debunked that theory. Excuse that. That's my homework from earlier that I was doing in between this. So yeah, anyways, that's kind of all she wrote for the Florida severe weather event. Not an outbreak by any means. Unfortunately, those of you like West Palm and Matt F-150, as you mentioned, in Miami, you're going to be very, very under the gun, or you're going to have some very intense conditions rolling through your area for a little while, and then those are going to blast through fairly quickly. And then we're kind of just left wondering what's going to happen next. I have water flowing just up into my pool gate in the street. It's getting close to the doors. Florida man, where are you out of specifically? Well, it sounds like the rain started up again out here. I'll wait until we get a response in the chat. I want to hear where Florida man is so we can look at the radar again. Let me close this and reopen it so we can get an updated look at that radar. Florida. Yeah, Miami is definitely about to get it, that's for sure. They're just going to continue probably populating that severe thunderstorm warning as it moves further to the east. All right, while we're waiting for a hopeful update from Florida man, let's switch gears and go over to our latest model information. So while this is still populating, I'll switch over to our 0Z. And as you go towards that point in time, if you look, this is February 12th. We get a nice system forming up over the Midwest, headed into the Great Lakes. But even then, this really isn't all that impressive. Far western Crystal River, it's barely raining, but I think because of the flow, it's pushing the water up. More than likely, that's for sure. Tornado warning west of Kendall. Let's take a look at the radar Omega. When it updates. There it is, yep. So actually, Matt F-150, wherever you are, I would recommend 110%. Possibly keeping your eyes very, very heavily aware of what's going on in your area. This is where I always mention to you guys, situational awareness is your best friend. There's a tornado warning issued for Miami-Dade County. Radar indicated. I don't like using this radar to scrutinize or interrogate for cells that are capable of producing tornadoes, but it looks like it's this little puppy right there. Let me switch over to base velocity. Yep, there it is right here. Very, very tight. This is why I don't like using this website. You can't get very high-res data from it, but it's there. It's very weak. Right there is what we're looking at, just a tiny little blip on the radar. It's a lot easier to see on my Radar Omega. And let me see if I can pull it up on the camera for you guys to see. Radar Omega does a much better job of showing it. That's the guy in question right there. Oh, that's not bad. You guys can probably see that. And it's headed east-northeast at a very rapid fashion, so definitely be on the lookout for any kind of possible funnel cloud activity or a shelf area. A wall cloud might be progressing towards your area as we speak. Let me switch back over to the base reflectivity. It's down there, though. You can see it right on that line echo wave pattern that we have going on. Let me press play. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a very, very rapid spin up. Very rapid spin up, interacting with that southerly flow. We have this very, very boisterous, can you stop switching to highlighter? She's very, very boisterous westerly push, and you can see how these very, very discrete cells are trying to pop up on the leading edge of that warm air, tries to get scooped up by this system. Very, very sudden wave, I guess you could say a wave-induced tornadic signature there. And that's the story with all these systems. You can see the ones to the north near Lake Okeechobee that were producing severe conditions are starting to diminish as well. But everything here in south just looks very impressive. I wouldn't be surprised if we're getting very, very discrete little... In fact, all of this area here looks like it's rotating. Let me make sure you guys can see what I'm drawing on the stream. I'll try to scroll down just a little bit more. There we go. I'll zoom out some. This whole area looks like it's rotating. This looks very close to what we saw 2 storm systems ago in the Panhandle when I was trying to outrun those supercells that were literally tornado warned right on top of my butt, trying to make it through the Panhandle towards I-90, I think it was. Oh, I know Radar Omega is better. I'm not going to troubleshoot Radar Omega with you guys right now on the stream. That would just be ridiculous. But yeah, there's another rotating cell that looks like it's trying to get going just to the north of that area. Nice little rotating couplets. There's one here, and then one down there. And let me go down towards the Keys. You can probably see it down in the Keys as well. If I can get the Key West radar. Yeah, there's definitely rotation all through down there along the leading edge of that punch of severe thunderstorm activity. So, Matt, if you're still there, if you haven't lost power, he hasn't said anything unless he's tuned out of the stream, definitely keep your eyes close or eyes peeled. I know Miss Leah, who lives down in that area as well. I also messaged a friend of mine I used to work with at the gym out in Brandon, Florida. She was supposed to be down there, but she hasn't officially moved down to the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area just yet, which is great. Yeah, this whole area is ripe and ready to go. It's like we have a micro-scale severe weather setup. You can see these little cells trying to blossom as they move towards the north. This would be where we would have those very, very isolated instances of severe weather, very good indications of possible tornadic activity right through there. This would be that warm sector that we've seen previously over the entire state of Florida or the entire southeast with those larger-scale, full-fledged winter storms. Water at least 3 feet from the door. Florida Man, do you have an Instagram or a TikTok or something like that that you can send videos or picture to me? I would love to see, please, if you have the capabilities of doing so. All right, as we continue to monitor the progression of this, let's switch back over to GFS. So there's our next potential major weather player. This definitely could be a severe weather event for the Deep South and, of course, the Gulf Coast states, like we've seen a number of times. There's our frontal system associated with this very weak occluded system trying to form up. In fact, this might still be unstable looking at the way it's characterized here. There's our rain-snow line. Good wraparound moisture contributing to very heavy snowfall in Oklahoma, Texas, and particularly Kansas. Nebraska is definitely going to see it, as well as it continues to transition further up to the northeast. Then it starts to look a little more lackluster. We don't have as substantial of cold air advection. We still do have cold air advecting along the leading edge of that frontal system. It's right down in through here, a very raggedy-looking frontal system, trying to battle through what cold air could possibly be dammed up against the lee of the Appalachians. So, James, to tell you the truth, winter is not behaving itself, and I do think El Nino is a primary contributor of that. There are a lot of other places, I shouldn't say places, but a lot of other sources that are mentioning Arctic is coming back. And I, for one, personally don't necessarily agree with that, because if I were to go all the way through the GFS loop, and I know, obviously, after a certain point with the GFS, you can only trust it so much. There is no Arctic air on the horizon. Not very much at all. Here's an Arctic-supported system. The jet's trying to come back down, but in terms of where we can see it, it's abnormally warm all through here. These are going to be all above average temperatures. These could be right on average temperatures for the winter time. So I don't know. There's a number of meteorologists out there who don't agree with Phil and him making the prediction that we'll have an early arrival of spring, but I don't know. I, for one, am professionally and personally on board with Phil to an extent, because February looks to be very uneventful unless we suddenly see a big shift in our 12Z data today in regards to that potential Valentine's Day significant weather event. We'll see. We're not there yet on the GFS. We're only 120 hours out. We're about 4 days away from when this system could possibly form up down here over the south, and we'll have to see what the European model says today as well, because the Euro is thinking we could have a system really form up, and we'll use our 1,000 to 500 thickness here so we can see exactly what the full extent of that is. And there it goes right there. So, this could definitely be a very severe weather event, a very recognizable severe weather event for the South. And if this does hold true and if it does trend, I would not be surprised whatsoever if Storm Prediction Center does what it did with our first bomb cyclone that occurred at the very beginning of this month that we were out chasing, and do their 15% highlights for days 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, or etc. Because there you go. There's our polar air, bona fide polar air. There's our 528 line. I'm going to get really mad if I see people say Arctic, because that's not Arctic. I even had Mr. Shane Castle, who has joined us for some of the previous live streams, actually send me recommendations for legitimate textbooks that I can just continue to read on my spare time to reinforce what experience I already have, drawing synoptic charts and doing the analysis process and scrutinizing these charts on a day-to-day for you guys. And every single textbook that I continue to read mentions that you will only find the Arctic jet, the Arctic front at this point, and that is not it. That is not it. I'm not going to get fully into the jargon for you guys. I don't want to lose you or talk down to you. But this is a polar air mass. This would be a bona fide polar front jet-supported system. Our 528 line is trying to work its way through the Texas-Oklahoma panhandle, so we have very, very great temperature discontinuity. You can see it plain as day in the thickness lines. Let me see if I can try to zoom in a little bit. I'll zoom into the Deep South so we can really get a close look at the way that thickness is very, very well packed up. There we go. Excellent. I lost it. Let's go back. There we go. So this is definitely severe weather chaos, 100%, without even really looking at anything else. Just the fact that we have a deepening low that's trying to form up over the southern plains and get its act together. We have very, very good boxology, as I've mentioned to you guys or explained to you guys before, where our isobars are almost perfectly perpendicular to those thickness lines, so we have very good cold and warm advection occurring on either side of it. And this is precisely why we don't have a lot going on with this current system. It is not a baroclinic system. It doesn't have this level of contrast. It doesn't have your textbook conveyor belts. It doesn't have your upper fronts. It doesn't have your upper jet support, a whole lot of shortwave or long wave trough energy associated with it. So that's why we're really only getting that enhancement brought on by what is available for the South to battle through our severe weather conditions. Let me go back to Radar Omega, see if they've disconnected. Nope, there it is. We called it. See, you'd think I've done this before, guys. You definitely think I've done this before. They just tornado warned that same thing I pointed out to you guys on radar a second ago. That other little weak vorticity couplet that was just to the north of the tornado warned storm headed towards Kendall. So, Matt, I have not seen you in the chat, which has me just a little concerned. I'm thinking of my folks down there who have tuned into my live streams, who I've communicated with through Instagram as well. I'm definitely watching for you guys. In fact, I think I'm going to reach out to Matt on Instagram right now and see if I can get a response from him. I agree, James. Yeah, though, and the pattern is going to change. If I were to take a long-range or a large-scale look, a macro-scale look at our pattern, we'll go back to 0Z so we can take a look at it. We'll look at North America so we can zoom the AOI out, and we'll go up to, we'll do the 500 millibar anomaly. 500 millibar anomaly does a wonderful job of showing it to us. So if we go back to the beginning, and we go even back further than that. This is on my birthday, Thursday, February 1st, and we go into Friday, very early morning. This is our Omega block pattern preparing to shoot this cutoff low at us. This is what's preventing winter from occurring for a large majority of us unless you live on the extreme westernmost extent of the United States, from British Columbia, the Pacific Northwest, through to California, a little bit going on in Arizona as that bowling ball system broke away from the jet. And if you were to fast forward from there and just click anywhere on the chart here, you can see that we are expecting our pattern to totally shift. But the thing is we're not going to have a lot of that cold air readily available for us to tap into, and a lot of our systems are going to try to move south. They're going to try to move south because of what's left of this upper-level ridging that has prevented anything else from really coming down across much of the lower 48. And because a lot of our jet influence, the stronger jet activity is going to be up to the north, we're not going to see these weak perturbations or these low pressures that jet across the south, no pun intended, with our subtropical jet, help to really entice that cold air to sweeping down, bring the jet down as well. So I don't know. I mean, we have it's still a wintertime pattern. We just have a weak to moderate wintertime setup across much of the lower 48 right now. I'll switch back over to the 12Z GFS, see how much of the run we have in 126 hours. Meh. Still not enough to see exactly what's going to happen in the middle of the month. What about the Canadian model? How far into that? Nope, not far enough at all. He might either be looking at it or doing something, but I definitely am not receiving any word from him. Not in the chat or on Instagram. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But there you go, folks. Winter has kind of not turned itself off, but really hasn't been doing a whole lot for many of us for the country. And I do believe it's because El Nino is holding on. We've seen a little bit of an increase in our El Nino out there. Even though our 7-day change, I don't know what's going on out there, because 7-day change, we're really starting to see those waters cool down right over where the Enzo regions are. But yet we are still in a very good El Nino pattern. All of our El Nino indices are holding steady. We've seen some spikes in certain areas as well. And that 3-4 that's particularly responsible for providing us with those El Nino impacts has started to rise back up towards that moderate El Nino index, 1.5. You can technically argue that that is a bit more of a stronger index, but I know some will dispute that, so we're not going to kind of characterize it. We'll just say that El Nino is still influencing the weather big time. We'll have to see. We could possibly be facing a big winter storm in the middle of the month. February 13th, 14th for the southern central plains is severe weather potential for us here along the Gulf Coast. Maybe not necessarily the state of Florida or the Florida Peninsula, I should say, if that system does boomerang back up towards the north like they have been doing like clockwork, following this projected path all the way through. And that's the thing. If the low is here, we're still going to have very good cold and dry air advection that could sweep across the Gulf Coast states to give this general area a very good run at severe weather. We would need a low to form down here and move up the coastline like this becoming a nor'easter for all of us to realize the severe weather, not only along the Gulf Coast states, but here across the Florida Peninsula as well. And that's kind of what's been hurting us. Well, I won't say hurting us. It's been a saving grace for a lot of us, hurting some of the folks who have, have been wanting the severe weather to take place, like that on-foot intercept we tried with our first storm. Because they're moving up so rapidly towards the northeast like this, we're losing a lot of that very good cold air advection as it progresses. We're getting the very, very weakest most part of the active frontal boundary. So that, mechanical forced convection, that lift along the leading edge of it, just isn't quite being realized down in Florida. Yeah, Miami Beach tornado warning issued. That's what we were just talking about. It's definitely going down there. We for sure have a lot of stuff kicking off big time. A lot of stuff. We have a very, very trademark line echo wave pattern that's formed up down there over Miami. Lots of very good rotation. Severe thunderstorm warnings and a special marine warning just off the coastline. Fort Lauderdale looks like it's going to dodge the bullet. If you're there in Coral Springs, Palm Air, Boca Raton, thankfully, that's where my grandmother is. Boca Raton, Boynton Beach area is where she lives. Fort Lauderdale looks like they're barely going to dodge it just to the south. It might try to squeak in there just to the southern periphery of their local area, the 5 nautical mile range, if you want to call it that, for Fort Lauderdale. Miami is right underneath it. Miami International is definitely seeing it right now. So actually, as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and do something very interesting. Let's see what the ASOS sensor, the observation sensor, is showing down there. Miami International Airport, ICAO. KMIA weather observation. Let's see. That didn't do it for me. Oh, here we go. It's on the left-hand side here. So they're currently at 17 knots, winds coming out of the southeast, or the south-southeast, I should say. Gusting to 29 knots. Visibility is still 6 statute miles with light rain, so I guess they aren't fully in there just yet. Whoa, I did not mean to do that. I'm trying to pull up a... Let's see. No METAR for that area. What about here? Due to airstrip. No METAR. Everglades. No METAR. All right, we're going to go over to a different National Weather Service site so we can try to pull up observations down in that area. See if any of the obs are reporting an actual FC. If we see an FC, a plus FC in their observations, then that goes to show that there was an actual confirmed tornado on the ground. Let's go. I want all of them, all networks. Let's do wind gusts. We'll just turn the winds on, and that's it. Right here, let's see. Heavy rain, mist, thin scattered at 2,400, overcast skies. Very low cloud decks, as we've been mentioning, guys. Nothing in terms of a tornado reported in their observations, though. There's light rain going on there. No weather occurring here anymore. It looks like it's concluded for that area. Very, very strong onshore flow going on over here. 29 miles per hour, 25 knots out of Virginia Key, the observation down there. Looks like this site may not have up... Oh, no, here it is. We have the 2 tornado warnings. Okay, very good. Let me check Instagram again, see if I've heard back from him at all. Nope, nothing just yet. We're in a holding pattern to see exactly what happens with our guy Matt down there. These systems are definitely self-sustaining, though, that's for sure. All of them are. They're tapping into what cape is available down there, and you can see them really holding strong. They are not diminishing in intensity whatsoever, and I would not be surprised if this entire region here is producing funnel clouds, wall clouds, very good rotation that you can see at ground level. Little concern with this area right here. There's a little bit of a notch starting to form there just as these storms collide. I agree, yeah, James Davidson, that's for sure. We've been very mild most of this winter, unless you live in the upper northeast of the U.S. So very active pattern going on right now. We're going to switch back over to Tropical Tidbits one more time, see if we have any more GFS data in that we could look at. We're at 162 hours out. Let's see if we can get close enough in time. All right, so there's February 11th. The model is calling for cyclogenesis right there, something to develop over the Texas-Oklahoma panhandle, just as we discussed. Let me go back to our Canadian model. I might try to stay on the stream long enough for us to see what the long-range models are thinking with this. 12Z Canadian model is just barely coming in. Let's see what the icon shows. The icon should make it out that far, I believe, if it's fully in. Let me go back to weathermodels.com. The icon tends to load faster on weather models. I'm not too sure why. Let's go to... We'll just use 3-hour precip. I know this doesn't have mean sea level pressure on it, but let's see. There's the 9th, there's the 10th. Yeah, so the icon has a little something forming down here with very good onshore flow for our Gulf Coast states, just as we've typically seen. Very textbook of our El Nino pattern. They're getting rained on and rained on and rained on, which is good because their February drought outlook looks to diminish a large majority of what was once under a severe drought setup from Texas all the way through to the Florida Panhandle and into interior parts of Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi where they had it the worst. That was a big talking point at the end of last year. Let's see if the GFS has come in any faster on here. Maybe we can see it on here without having to go back to tropical tidbits. How far are we? Nope, we're at about exactly 168 hours on here as well. So we're still waiting and seeing. 174 hours on here now. Yeah, so the GFS is not giving it a big vote of confidence. And not nearly as much cold air. It looks like the GFS is thinking that this weak wave up here, this weak cold and warm front to the north over the Dakotas and Montana is going to keep a lot of that cold air at bay. It's going to keep it absorbed to this low pressure up here as opposed to this bad boy here getting a lot of momentum drawn in around it. Very good onshore flow, though, mainly thanks to this low deepening, but this very strong high pressure just to the south of Bermuda helping to drive the warm air to the north as well as the moisture. Yes, I can't see how many likes are in. This thing still says that I have a scheduled stream. It hasn't even populated how many people are in here, so I don't know who's watching right now. I don't know why YouTube glitched out the way that it did. But again, the GFS does not seem to be giving this system a big vote of confidence. I think if we switch back over to the European model, the Euro was thinking that it would already start to take off and rapidly deepen as soon as it began to unveil itself over the southern central plains. Yeah, right there, 1,002. Very quickly into a 900 millibar, 996, 991, 988. Very bad. This would be very serious if it does unfold. This, I can definitely see some really good textbook clickbait videos coming out. Well, not clickbait, but really, really hyped up videos coming out on, because this could be a very severe icing and heavy snow event. Very good severe weather event for much of the southeast. This is the type of setup where you want to start saying things like severe outbreak, winter storm outbreak, blizzard conditions for sure. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't believe it was on the model at 12 Zulu yesterday. I don't think 12Z had anything on it. Yeah, not nearly as menacing. So the model is thinking that this system is going to intensify, and we'll see if that trend holds true today. If at 12 Zulu today, the model is still thinking we could have a strong system pushing through. Got the 180-hour point. Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see. GFS doesn't really think we're going to get a lot out of it. So time will tell. Let me see if there's been any other updates on Radar Omega. They've discontinued one tornado warning. One of them is still ongoing. Let's go back to that Miami International observation. Let's see. KMIA weather observation. There we go. They got up to gust 38 miles an hour, so just shy of 40-mile-an-hour winds ongoing for Miami International. No reported tornado in the observations, though. And this looks like it's their live ASOS data as well, which is good. Yeah, so nothing in there in terms of what they're looking at for the obs. Or I should say for current weather, outside of the thunder and rain that they're getting. The mist is probably because of the heavy rainfall. Yes, welcome in, Milagros. That makes sense. At the very beginning of this live stream, we'd mentioned that South Florida was likely to see the bulk of our strongest stuff, and it is ongoing, almost done. We're actually almost out of it. If I look at the radar, we are really seeing that system sweep through, and it is almost over. They have more Special weather statements, a severe thunderstorm warning issued just to the southeast of Lake Okeechobee. Very, very strong winds. Very good hail falling out of that storm as well. A special marine warning is still in effect for the southeast quadrant of Lake Okeechobee. Headed towards Stuart, Florida, Tequesta, Florida, Jupiter Island, Juno Beach. Jupiter Island, somebody had just commented on my video or my TikTok, one of the two, just a couple days ago, if not yesterday, mentioning Jupiter. I know, it was my instructor for school. One of my college professors was just down in Jupiter Island, and that's where it's headed. Well, Jupiter, Florida, I should say, and that's where this severe thunderstorm is headed. Everything else for the greater Florida area, though, is just about done. If you guys look at the radar for much of the Florida peninsula, we were definitely spot on. There's nothing holding itself together over Florida. It's just turning into a very cold, moderate, if not very localized, heavy bout of rainfall. In fact, it looks like we're just about done here. I wouldn't be surprised if, as Maya said in the video a little while ago, we started to see the sunshine come out over here, and this is much earlier than the models were thinking. I think the models carried it through a little bit stronger and a little bit longer lasting than what we actually have going on. Models were thinking by 1, 2 o'clock at the latest is when things will start to trend down, but it's only 11:20 in the morning, and we're already seeing things quiet down for a large majority of us across Florida. And in the south, if you live in the south, especially on the East Coast now, just hunker down, stay safe, and stay situationally aware of what's going on in your surroundings, because the worst of it is about to hit. Whatever's held together with these storms is on your doorstep within the next hour, if not less than that. Probably much less than that. I would say within the next 20, 30 minutes, all hell's going to hit the fan for you if you live down in the southeast quadrant of the Florida peninsula, right up there along the coastline. And be aware, because those warm waters off the coast could possibly instigate a little bit of development even further than what we're already seeing in these complexes going across that area. There's another tornado warning that was just issued. Very small tornado warning just to the south of Biscayne Bay. South of Kendall, southeast of Homestead. So multiple tornado warnings. They have like a little miniature tornado outbreak going on down there. We've seen 4 tornado warnings. You only need 6 confirmed tornadoes from the same synoptic scale feature to be classified as a tornado outbreak. I know a lot of people aren't going to consider this a tornado outbreak, but you kind of get what I'm saying. Very small, localized area of rapid succession tornadoes trying to occur according to radar. Yeah, so see, the GFS is really not giving this much of a vote of confidence. Big difference in compared to what the Euro was thinking. The Euro was bringing that 528 line all the way down towards the southern plains. In this iteration of the GFS for 12 Zulu, it keeps the 528 line well up here. So big difference. Not nearly as much activity that's possible down in this quadrant of the United States. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll definitely have to wait and see. Right here, though, this doesn't look like a major event. None whatsoever. And I bet you if we were to go over to our snow totals as well, even though I know people are going to hype this up and go crazy about it. Yeah, look at that very narrow snow band. Very, very, very narrow snow band. Nothing too dramatic. The actual change in the snow depth is not going to be very much either. It looks like maybe 2 to 3 additional inches of what's already fallen in that general area, whatever has still stuck. And the 24-hour snowfall with this system is not going to be very impressive, maybe 5 to 10 inches at best. And this is a large-scale look at what our models are thinking, at least according to the GFS. So get ready, mark my words. You're going to see your videos coming up very soon. Big time, epic, historic, and it's not. This doesn't look that bad, at least according to the GFS. Obviously, you know, we have quite a ways away. It's only the 4th of February. This is not until the 12th and the 13th. So naturally, we're going to see lots of ebbing and flowing and lots of changing back and forth. But as it stands right now, this is nothing to write home about. This is nothing catastrophic, cataclysmic. So we'll have to wait and see. And it looks like a large area is going to dodge the snowfall with this small of a corridor of snow as expected with this system, according to the GFS. That is the major disclaimer I wish I can put asterisks around. According to the GFS. According to the GFS. All right, guys, I have homework that I have to finish up. I figured I'd take a break and update you all because I was late into yesterday. I was absent from the YouTube sphere yesterday. But I'm going to go ahead and get back to it so I can free up the rest of the day, hopefully. And we'll go from there and see exactly what happens for the rest of the day. So, yeah. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, either leave them in the comments section below or drop me a line on my Instagram, Twitter, X, etc. TikTok, X, Instagram. I always say that. I always say Twitter and X as if they're two separate things. And we'll be back to it soon. Tomorrow morning, we'll have another live update. Not a live update, etc. Not a live update, excuse me. Now I'm talking way too fast. I think the caffeine is definitely hitting now. Canadian model isn't in far enough for us to see anything worthwhile. Oh, no, there we go. Yeah, it's there. Never mind. The snow for the Canadian model isn't really there. Yeah, see, the Canadian model doesn't have anything coming out of it. The Canadian model doesn't even think we're going to get very much snow from it. Very interesting. Very, very weak system according to the Canadian model. A little bit of an influx of moisture over the southeast, but I wouldn't classify this as severe. This would likely be just your garden variety thunderstorm set up in very heavy rainfall. But yeah, guys, that's all she wrote. We'll talk to you again very soon. Thank you very much for whoever tuned in today. I don't know why the YouTube still says that we're on the scheduled stream and this isn't streaming. I'm glad that this did go out and there weren't any issues or technical difficulties with YouTube being silly. And we'll talk to you again very soon. Tomorrow we'll film another live or actual segment of Weather Center, and then we'll probably be live again Tuesday and Thursday of next week. That's going to be the new rhythm until I can get my YouTube channel back up and running at full capacity and stop getting smothered by all the hype and the YouTube algorithm as well. So, yeah, we'll talk to you guys very soon. Thank you very much for tuning in today, and I really appreciate you taking some time out of your Sunday morning to talk weather and see exactly what's going on out there. And we'll continue to see what happens as we go over the next 3 to 6 hours for Florida and the rest of the Southeast. It does look like things will be calm as we go through the back end of today, which is good, and it's still early enough in the day for us to salvage our Sunday after this is all done. But thank you all for watching. We'll see you again soon. This is Weather Center Nazario, signing out.